You're watching UATV News. My name is Inna Kosinska. Good evening. Ukraine will receive the first batch of COVID-19 vaccines by the end of the week. More than 200,000 doses will be delivered as part of the global COVAX initiative. This was stated by Prime Minister Denis Shmyhal. Vaccinations will start in February. The Prime Minister also added that all the queues and regulations for immunization of Ukrainians will be observed.
There will be enough vaccines for everyone this year. Today we have contracts. More than 30 million vaccines have been signed. Therefore, all stages of vaccination in Ukraine, according to a clear national plan, will be observed. Necessary infrastructure is prepared. A plan has been formed and developed to form 500 mobile teams and 4,000 relevant vaccination points.
44 people have disappeared in Crimea since the beginning of Russian occupation. The fate and whereabouts of 15 of them is still unknown. 6 persons were found dead. These are the data of the public organization Crimea SOS. The day before, human rights defenders and activists held the action "Punishment is a matter of time." Thousands of people came under the embassy of the Russian Federation in Kyiv to remind of the inevitable responsibility that the Kremlin and the self-proclaimed authorities will hold for the crimes in Crimea.
The purpose of such actions is to draw the attention of the Ukrainian public, journalists and the international community to those acts and impunity for the occupation authorities' attempts to conceal their involvement in these crimes.
Virtual SIM cards for residents of the temporarily occupied territories of Ukraine. The government is working on a project that will allow residents of non-government controlled territories to use mobile numbers of Ukrainian operators. It's not only about calls and messages, but also about the opportunity to use government services online. It is assumed that virtual SIM cards will work when the smartphone is connected to any mobile internet or Wi-Fi. Lowered utility bills, transparent gas market and subsidies. The Ukrainian government uses multiple mechanisms to reduce individual financial burden. This year's budget estimates over $1 billion to cover utility spendings for socially unprotected categories. And this sum can be extended if necessary. Prime Minister of Ukraine stated this. According to him, penalties for late bill payments will be relieved in January. However, protests are still continuing across the country. Why do people take to the streets? In our next report.
Lowering of utility tariffs, this was the main demand of the people who have taken to rally in the center of Kyiv. Citizens expressed backlash to the overburdened tariff burden for natural gas. Sumy and Poltava regions are the biggest natural gas producers, while the local distributor charges $16 for the supply to the nearby city Lubny. For the distribution of the same product to capital, they take only $2.50.
In January, we have to pay nearly 4,000 hryvnias for utilization of natural gas, while transportation amount to 1,000.
Many of protesters are aware that they can change the gas supplier and pay at a lower price. But for some reason, people are in no hurry to do this. Some of them say suppliers lack trust, others are afraid of changes.
One needs to be trusted to make changes. What this can change if I don't trust them? They will keep cheating. I wouldn't change because I have no protection. If my relatives support this move, I would do this. Also, I didn't change because I'm worried about the outcome.
In fact, changing a supplier is not difficult or scary. One can make it using supplier's website or the Gazotech portal. The procedure is simple: fill out application, attach documents and insert the EIC code, which one can find on the payment bill. As for the pricing, from next month until the end of the quarantine, all gas suppliers will reduce tariffs for natural gas. The price is set at 25 cents per cubic meter. Together with national regulator and members of parliament, we reached decision on the cut of the tariff for natural gas distribution for 14 regions. For the whole Ukraine, the distribution tariff is the same, 1.79 hryvnia, which is 6.5 cents for the cubic meter. I think this is a fair price for the current day, but anyway we plan to initiate amendments to the law in order for the regional distributing companies could lower prices. Experts, however, note that the so-called tariff riots benefit the opposition political forces. They use the topic to destabilize the situation in the country. Rallies may be beneficial in the context of possible snap elections to the Verkhovna Rada or, for example, resignation of the cabinet. Plus, according to SBU, several detained persons from the borderline regions in fact admitted that they took part in rallies by agreement with representatives of the Russian Federation. Thanks to government actions that end up in fixed prices for utilization and transportation, since the next month Ukrainian citizens will save 30% on the natural gas bill. Reported by Nick Starkov, Valery Bakos, UATV News.
Over the past 9 months of the coronavirus pandemic, Ukrainian culture and tourism industries lost nearly $3 billion. This data was stated by the Ministry of Culture and Information Policy of Ukraine during a public discussion of the government strategy of economic development until 2030. According to Minister Alexander Tkachenko, the economic recovery of the creative economy is among the country's priorities.
To start with, these are varied financial opportunities for creative startups, depending on the economic sector and legal entity. Creative hubs with incubator and accelerator programs for artists, attractive loans for publishers. We plan to launch creative hubs as spaces for development of creative ventures in Ukraine, extend grant opportunities which are administered by government institutions.
The National Police of Ukraine is going to procure another 1,000 American Taser electric shockers. The purchase will take place if the Parliament approves amendments to the law on the National Police and allows law enforcement officers to use electric shockers. Whether a new special tool is really needed, our correspondents found out.
The police officer demonstrates the work of a taser. When fired at the target, the device releases 2 charged needles on wires. My muscles contracted as much as possible, but I was conscious all the time and I could breathe freely. When the taser turned off, the discomfort disappeared. Now I feel like after a hard workout and I'm definitely not ready to fight back. Such taser is used by law enforcement in more than 100 countries around the world. Police say it is an alternative to a firearm or baton that can cause injuries or even kill a person during arrest. Taser also automatically records the time and place and duration of each use and preserves this information. Today, this is a safe way to stop an offender with minimal risk of harm to him and to police officer. The taser is considered a non-lethal weapon. However, deaths from the use of tasers have already been registered in the world. It affects each person individually, doctors say. Different situations may occur because of the use of electric current. For example, a person could be under the influence of some substances or might have some cardiovascular diseases. Also, don't forget about people with mental diseases. Therefore, in order to use this device, first of all, it is necessary to know that it is dangerous. Any effect of the electric current on one's body is dangerous. Meanwhile, lawyers stress that the police officers should use tasers only in the extreme cases.
Leave him alone. Yeah, you just grabbed him. Oi! That was totally unnecessary.
The police should use this device only in certain situations. For example, when a person commits a criminal offense or causes some kind of damage. The policeman should not ground the use of a taser by a simple suspicion that an alleged criminal has some kind of weapon. The policeman should have a clear assumption that a person has a weapon. In fact, it is difficult to foresee all the circumstances. There should be more focus on police training.
Tasers can appear in the national police only after the adoption of the relevant law, which is now being studied in the parliament. Reported by Nick Starkov, Artem Holub, UATV News.
A newborn appeared in the family of brown Carpathian bears. The cub was born at a wildlife rehabilitation center in Khmelnytsky. Those bears are listed in the Red Book and they rarely produce offspring in captivity. When the cubs grow up, they will replenish the fauna of nature reserves.
Come and get some bread, don't be afraid. Dasha doesn't leave her newborn cubs even for a second. Her favorite cakes and fruits don't help. The cubs are still very small, only half a kilogram, and mom hides them from everyone for now. The 6-year-old brown bear used to be a circus animal. Several years ago, she and the bear Pafnuti were transported to a wildlife rehabilitation center. Those triplets are their first offspring. We give him more meat, fish and milk. However, it turns out we give the food in a bottle. She doesn't want to go far from the little ones, but she knows us and trusts us. Carpathian brown bears are listed in the Red Book. There are about 200 of them left in Ukraine. Veterinarians say that these animals quite rarely breed in captivity, but in the rehabilitation center they were able to create conditions for the bears to become parents. Unfortunately, it happens regularly at the rehabilitation centers, but we have provided comfortable conditions for the animals. We feed them well. They get all the necessary macro and micro elements, protein. I think next year we will be waiting for another offspring. Anyone can watch wild animals. The entrance to the center is free.
I thought that they were giving birth to bigger and already hairy ones, and then they turn out to look like a tiny puppy or a rabbit. I can't even describe them.
In 2 months, the cubes will be vaccinated and get the animal passports, and when they become older, they will be released into the natural reserves of Ukraine, reported Banik Starkov, Arina Kantanistova, UATV News.
That's all for this hour. More updates on our official website, YouTube, Twitter and Facebook pages. Stay safe and good night.